Now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you're expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves anyone out there, including yourself, especially yourself actually, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And we put all this together into one bundle, one practice, one mindset, one method, one philosophy, one book, one show. This masterclass, daily masterclass that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. First of all, before we even get into this, I want to let y'all know, listen, the only thing I ask of you in exchange for what we deliver here every single day is that you go on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or anywhere else that allows a review. Those are the only two I know of. And leave a review of the show. Please leave a review of the show, a rating and a review. Write something that lets the aggregators know, that's like Apple, Spotify, all them, lets them know that we're putting out good material. It lets other listeners know that this is a show that is worth their time, and it lets me and us over here working the game know that we're giving you value. We need to know these things. That we don't get any feedback, then we have no idea if we're giving you something good or we're not. So please, don't give us a silent treatment. Let us know what we're delivering to you here at Work on Your Game. This show is also brought to you by Work on Your Game University, which you know about. So today's topic is how to reinvent yourself. Now, this is a really important topic, especially for those of you out there who are thinking of doing any form of pivoting in your life or in your business or in your career. Or maybe it's not even a pivot for you right now. Maybe it's just a complete change in direction. You're not pivoting. You're not staying on one foot. You're moving completely from one area to another. This is something that I needed to do. I was required to do when I decided to get out of playing sports, and I wanted to go into a completely different world where, as many of you don't know me from the sports world, some of you do, and still mess with me because I reinvented myself and I'm talking about other things. Even though you may not play sports anymore, I don't play sports anymore. And some of you never knew me when I was only talking about sports because you weren't looking for that. But because of the material that I create now and the presence that I've created now, you're interested because I'm talking your language. So it was really important for me to go from athlete to maybe a brand builder, if you want to call it, or influencer before influencers were a huge thing, to content creator, to a business owner as I am now. And while, of course, it requires skills, it requires work, it requires time to reinvent yourself. I think all of you maybe inherently understand that, even if you haven't really thought about it consciously. There are also some underlying principles that anyone who is, you're going to undergo a reinvention. There's some underlying principles that you will need in order for that reinvention to really occur and for it to really stick. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. So anyone who is in the process of reinventing yourself, or maybe you're looking at where you are right now and you're saying, maybe I've done everything that I want to do, or everything I could do, or everything I need to do in this space, and I want to go into something completely different. Something that is not very close to what you're doing right now. Something that maybe the people who know you as the person that you are today, if they see this reinvention that you're thinking about, they will look at you like, all right, why the hell did you stop doing the thing you were doing before? Why are you doing something completely different? Why don't you just keep doing the thing you were doing, back then, 5 years ago, or keep doing the thing that you're doing today, 5 years from now? Somebody may say that to you. I would get people when I first started talking about things like business or entrepreneurship or sales or marketing or branding or things that weren't directly related to playing sports. I would have people comment and say, Dre, why are you not talking about basketball anymore? Or somebody came on, I was on YouTube once and I made a video and somebody said, and the video wasn't about sports. And somebody said, I liked your channel when it was just about basketball. And I said, well, listen, like Jay-Z said, you want my old shit, buy my old album. What some of you you're going to need to undergo these changes, these principles that I'm going to share here today. You're going to need to understand these and you're going to need to apply them in order to reinvent yourself. So that's why we're talking about this here today. Let's get into it. Point number one. The topic, once again, is how to reinvent yourself. First thing you must do is see more for yourself than your current space or station in life. You're not going to be able to reinvent yourself if you can only see yourself you can't reinvent yourself as a CEO and entrepreneur if you only see yourself as a basketball player. You can't reinvent yourself as, there are models out there. I can't think of all their names. what's the woman's name? I think Kathy Ireland, she's a CEO now, owns her own company. But before she was she was known as a supermodel, just a supermodel. But she leveraged that into building her own business and building her own brand because she probably foresaw that she probably wasn't going to be able to be a model forever. Somebody like Magic Johnson is a good example. He was a basketball player, superstar, legendary basketball player, reinvented himself as a business builder, as an investor, as a person who is just a business mogul out here in terms of what he does business-wise and building businesses and taking franchises and taking them further and having his hands in all kinds of different things that Magic Johnson does. Another great example of a person reinventing themselves. But all these people that I'm mentioning, myself and Magic Johnson, Kathy Ireland, anyone who's reinvented themselves, maybe you, as you're listening to this, the first step is you got to see more for yourself than where you are in this current space. One of the biggest challenges that I see, and I talked about this, and people ask me about my background coming from basketball, and I often get asked, Dre, you played basketball. How did you go from being a basketball player to being an entrepreneur and talking about stuff that has nothing to do with basketball? What was the beginning? How did you even start? What was the genesis of all of it? The start of it was I had to have a vision in my mind that I saw myself as more than just an athlete, as more than just a basketball player. And I don't mean more than an athlete like putting it on a t-shirt or putting the shit on a hashtag. I mean, I talked about that already back in episode number, where's that episode that I talked about that? I'll tell you in a second. That was in masterclass, where is it? That was masterclass number 1517, why I do not like the more than an athlete concept. Even though if you just say more than an athlete with no explanation, I think I completely embody it, fully embody it. I'm maybe one of the most qualified people in the world to talk about it. I didn't like the concept because it was like you had to announce that you're more than an athlete. No, you don't announce it. This is, first of all, it starts with the way that you think, then it leads to your actions. Now, again, that's masterclass number 1517. You can listen for yourself exactly what I had to say about that. But it starts with you seeing yourself as more than the space that you're in right now. And what you have to understand is human beings are creatures of habit. And not only habits for ourselves, but the habits of the way that we see other people. So we like to know the people around us. We like to know exactly who they are, what they're about, what we're going to get from them, what they do, what they don't do. We like to be able to put people in boxes. All right, this person does this person's about this person does that, this person doesn't do anything like this person never says anything like that, this person never talks about this. And then when someone disturbs that, our vision of what other people are, the little box that we put another person in, it disturbs us. So if you reinvent yourself because you see yourself as something other than what other people see you as, you're going to get some pushback. Somebody's going to push back and say, well, why don't you just keep modeling? Why don't you just keep playing basketball? Why don't you just keep podcasting? Why don't you just keep working at that Fortune 500 company? Why are you changing and doing something completely different? Because you're disturbing their vision of who you are. And if your vision of who you are, that goes bigger than that thing, if your vision of who you are is not stronger than their vision of who you are, then their pushback may push you back into staying in the same space that you were in before. You follow what I just said? Hit the rewind button a couple times if you did. The definition of reinvention is to change something so much that it appears to be entirely new. That's what it means to reinvent. You can't change and take on a whole new direction in your life if you don't believe or see yourself going further and doing more than your current situation. It's impossible for you to change direction and make yourself appear entirely new. It's still the same person, but you can't make yourself even appear entirely new if you don't have the belief within you that you can do more and go further than where you are today. So if people only know you as a businessman, that does not mean you can't become a philanthropist, but you have to have a vision in your head that you can be a philanthropist. It has nothing to do with what other people think. Because again, your vision of who you are and who you can be needs to be bigger than what everybody else thinks you should be, or the box that other people want to keep you in. If you're a musician, for example, it doesn't mean that you can't go start a business that has nothing to do with playing music. You can do it. You just have to have a vision that says you can. If you don't have that vision in your mind, then you will never take the actions. Understand that the principle in life, ladies and gentlemen, is be, do, and have. It starts with who you are being. Being is the way that you think. It's about the way that you see yourself. So if you only see yourself as being this basketball player, then there's no way you will do anything that takes you outside of being a basketball player, at least not for a sustained period of time. you will go right back to what your being is. Your being will always determine what you do, and it will, of course, your doing determines what you have. So when you change your being, or at least you have it in your mind, the being that you can do something other or be something other than what you've been to this point, then you have the opportunity to do something different. But you have to have it in your mind in order to even create that opportunity. Point number 2. The topic once again today is how to reinvent yourself. Number 2, you must have the ability to tune out the noise. As I just explained, I just stepped on this point and talking about it in point number 1. The ability to tune out the noise means, depending on how much success you have created along the way of doing things one way, there may be a lot of noise, a loud cacophony of people, including yourself. All right, let's not exclude ourselves, including yourself, including your close friends, including family members who love and care about you, who want you to stay where you are and stay as you are. Now, why would people who are close to you, people who love you, people who want the best for you, why would they want you to stay where you are and stay as you are? Well, one main reason is because that's what they did. That's what they're doing. They're staying where they are and as they are, so they expect you to do the exact same thing. Why? Because they don't know any better. This is why it's really important, ladies and gentlemen. When we talk about the law of association, you become the average of the people you associate the most with. Doesn't matter how many of them it is. 5 people, 2 people, 1 people, 2,000. If you're associating with people who can't see themselves as anything more than one thing, they put themselves in one space and they can't see themselves stepping out of that box ever, what do you think they're going to try to convince you to do? What do you think they're going to advise you to do if that's what they did? People can only give what they have, ladies and gentlemen. So if your associates, whether those are family members, friends, the people you hang with, the people you follow on social media, whoever you engage with, if those people can only see themselves as fitting into one box, they can only advise you to fit into one box because they have no vision of doing anything else. So you, in order to reinvent yourself, you got to be able to tune out that noise, because there's going to be at least a little bit of noise from people who can only see themselves one way. Therefore, they're going to advise you to see yourself one way. Not because they're trying to hate on you, but because they see that that works for them, so they're going to suspect that it works for you. Most of the time, believe it or not, when people give you advice, they're not telling you what works for you. They're telling you what worked for them, and then they're telling you to do the same thing. Why? Because people love company. Whether they're miserable or successful, everybody wants company. Okay? So depending on how much success you've created, because if you've been a complete failure all your life doing one thing, and then you say you want to do something else, well, look, maybe people might say, hey, that's a good idea. You should do something else, because what you're doing right now ain't working. But if you've been successful at what you're doing, if you're making good money, if you're taking care of your family, if you created fame for yourself, you created some notoriety, if you have you got a little bit of presence in the world, and doing the thing that you've been doing up to this point, and then you float the idea that you want to reinvent yourself and do something completely different, all right, people who are around you are going to be like, yo, do you see all the success you've created to this point doing that thing? Why would you do something different? Why would you change if this thing has been working so well up to this point? It makes no sense. That's what some people are going to make that argument to you. You got to be able to either tune out that noise and or have a vision that is stronger of yourself than they have of you. These are people who are going to want you to stay where you are and stay as you are, and they will have very convincing, logical, reasonable arguments for why you should. They're comfortable with who you are and who you've been up to this point. Hey, they may even be benefiting from who you are and where you are up to this point. I mean, your own family members, if they see that you're creating success in one area and they're benefiting from that success, maybe financially, maybe emotionally, maybe just by association, just knowing that you are who you are and they get to stand next to you, they get a benefit from you staying in that box. So you say you're going to step out of that box, all right, it's affecting them. Directly or indirectly, it's affecting them. If you were to step out of that box, they might not want you to step out of the box. They have a vested interest in you staying the same. So are you able to tune out that noise? This is a big question that you're going to need to answer. Especially the more successful you've been up to this point in your life, the more important it will be that you're able to tune out that noise. If you can't tune that out, you're going to be stuck doing what they want you to do, living the life that they want you to live, and not the life that you want to live. Many of you who are listening to me right now didn't know anything about me when my content was 100% basketball material. And when I started talking about these topics that were outside of basketball, as I told you earlier, some basketball fans of mine said, well, Dre, why don't you talk about basketball anymore? Why don't you just keep talking about basketball? I mean, that's what people know you for. Why not just stick to basketball? I had to move on from basketball. Why did I have to move on from basketball? Not because the game kicked me out. I moved on from basketball because I wanted to, because I saw myself as more than just talking about basketball. It was time for me to do something new. And for me, I already knew what my next thing would be, luckily enough for me. That noise, understand that noise that I'm talking about, you got to be able to tune out. That noise could also be your own attachment to who you currently are. It could be your marriage to an identity that you've created for yourself. Your identity is you're a business person, not a philanthropist. Your identity is you're a model, not a business person. Your identity is you're a podcaster, not an athlete. Is that identity, you may be so married to it because it's worked for you. It has created, it's boosted your ego. It may be hard for you to get a divorce from that identity. You won't be able to move yourself away from it. This is like the person who stays in a relationship that they know they're not happy in, but they're more concerned about the uncertainty of moving on and being single than they are with the fact that the uncertainty of moving on and being single bothers them more than staying in a relationship that they don't want to be in. Has any of you ever been in that situation? Stayed in a relationship you shouldn't have been in longer than you should have stayed in it simply because you were more concerned about the uncertainty than you are about the known thing that isn't working? Of course you have. Are you willing and able to move away from this identity that you've married? This is an important question. So the noise might be coming from the outside, but that noise also comes from the inside. See masterclass number 804, where we talked about shutting off the outside noise. And also masterclass number 1473 regarding removing noise from your life. Both of those will help you shut off that outside noise. You must be able to do this to reinvent yourself. Point number 3, topic today is how to reinvent yourself. You must identify the ancillary skills. Or ancillary. I don't know if it's ancillary or ancillary, whichever one it is. Identify the ancillary skills and ancillary uses for those skills. I'm gonna look this word up so we make sure we get the right pronunciation. Let's see. Ancillary. All right, so Google just told me it's ancillary. All right, so identify your ancillary skills and ancillary uses for those skills. So I knew how to write the word, I know how to use the word, but I didn't know how to say it. So hey, we learn something new every day here on Work on Your Game. Definition, me too. Definition of ancillary is providing necessary support to the primary activities or operation of an organization, institution, industry, or system. Let me say that one more time. It's a long definition. The topic, again, point number 3 here. Identify your ancillary skills and the uses for those skills. The definition of ancillary is providing necessary support to the primary activities or operation of an organization, institution, industry, or system. In other words, let me break this down and put it in simpler terms. Looking at who and where you are right now in life, ask yourself the following question. What skills, tools, and experiences do I have that can contribute elsewhere in life? I'm going to repeat that question. Looking at who you are today and where you are today, your question is, what skills and tools and experiences do I have now that could contribute in other areas of life? These are the seeds of your reinvention. For me, for example, I was playing sports. Playing sports, you must be disciplined. You got to be confident and believe in yourself. You got to be mentally tough because you're not going to win every game and make every shot. And you got to take initiative because everybody's trying to play sports, at least at the pro level. And if you don't take initiative, the opportunities are not going to beat down your door unless you happen to be spectacularly talented. I was talented, but I wasn't spectacularly talented. You get what I'm saying? So I realized through asking myself the same question I just gave to you, that these tools, these mental game tools, these can help people who don't play sports. There are people who don't play sports who need these same things. And I understood at the same time, one day I was going to be a non-athlete. One day I wouldn't be a basketball player anymore. One day I would be a former basketball player. And there's nothing worse than being a former something, but you ain't a current anything. Everybody understand what I'm saying? I didn't want to be a former athlete, but then currently doing nothing. All right, I never wanted to be that type of person to be stagnant in life. I always want to have something going on. I usually got multiple things going on at once, but that's just me. So what I decided by asking myself and answering that question, why not target those people somehow? Why not target people who don't play sports? And let me see if I can give them some value. And here's the great thing. My background in sports became the ancillary skill to what I do now. So they worked for each other. They were symbiotic. The fact that I play sports is an ancillary skill to what I do today. It's an interesting piece to complement what I'm now doing, but is no longer the main thing. So the skills actually swap places. So let me put that in simpler terms again. When I was playing basketball, I realized that one of the ancillary skills of playing ball was the mental game, right? These things we talk about here and work on your game every day. So those ancillary skills allowed me nowadays to reach those of you who never found me through watching basketball videos, because you're not a basketball player. And the fact that I used to play ball nowadays is an ancillary skill to what I do, because now people are like, all right, this guy talks about mindset and discipline and motivation and confidence. And I'm not the only person talking about it, but you're like, oh, he used to play professional sports. Oh, that's interesting. That makes it a little bit different than all the other people talking about it, right? It's an ancillary skill. The ancillary skill of the mindset helped me play basketball, and the ancillary skill of playing basketball helps me teach mindset. You see what I'm saying? They work for each other. They're symbiotic skills. This is part of reinventing yourself, finding out what tools you have that can complement other tools that you have. Now, this may take a little bit of work, but we can help you work on this. This is why we have Work on Your Game University. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Listen, you can get on a call directly with me, and we can talk about this. You can get on our live calls every week, and we can talk about what ancillary skills you have and figuring out how they can be applied to other areas of life. This is something that everyone has within them. Nobody is fit to just do one thing. You don't have to do the same thing all your life. If you want to, you can. But if you want to reinvent yourself, it is absolutely possible. You just have to follow a certain strategy. And we got the frameworks for doing it. I'm telling you about it right now. I'm telling you what the framework is, and Work on Your Game University will talk about implementing this framework. Again, that's workonyourgameuniversity.com. Point number 4. The topic here today is how to reinvent yourself. This is our last point. Point number 4. You got to try things. You got to try stuff. All this is great, right? I'm laying out the strategy of things that you would do. You got to actually put these things to use, ladies and gentlemen. You got to go do something. Before I landed on this mental game stuff, I want you all to know that this was not the first idea that I came up with. When I was playing basketball, I knew at some point in life, whether it was at age 25 or age 40, I was going to be a former basketball player. Basketball is going to be over. What else can I do with my life? What else can I do to offer value? What else can I do to have momentum? What else can I do to have some kinetic energy, have something going on in my life besides the fact that I used to play basketball? That's not having what you used to do is not something going on. All right, what am I going to be doing today, right now, in the moment? My first idea, actually, when I was thinking about how am I going to move on from basketball, my first idea was I was going to talk about like video marketing, how to market yourself through publishing video, because the way that most people came to originally know me was through YouTube, videos that I was publishing on YouTube, basketball videos, but videos nonetheless, because that's what I had been doing. And I remember I went to an expert event. Well, actually, first of all, before I even get to that, the marketing stuff through YouTube wasn't really my thing, because in the marketing industry, if you're going to talk about marketing, you really got to stay up on all these little changes and algorithms and tools that are happening. It's like an everyday, it's like an endless job. You have to always stay up on the newest thing, and then there's another new thing. Then Google changed this, then Facebook changed this, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that shit. That wasn't for me. Now, it is for some of you. Maybe some of you listen to it. It's for you. It wasn't for me, okay? Next thing I did, when I was trying to figure out my expertise, I realized, like, you know what, maybe somebody else can help me. Maybe somebody who already nailed their expertise, they can look at what I have, and they can help me figure out my expertise. Now, this is something I help people do these days, but at this time, this is around maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I needed somebody to help me with it. And this experience that I'm about to share with you was not a good experience. It was a poor experience I had with someone trying to help me figure this out. And because I've been through these bad experiences, now I have the experience to make sure that none of you go through this shit. So I will help you and make sure you actually get a good experience with it, again, through Work on Your Game University. So let me tell you what I did. I looked up this woman who was local to where I live in Miami, and she was putting on an expert event. This event happened to be coming up like 6 weeks from the date that I reached out to her. And I went to her event, paid for it and everything, 3-day event, went to it, sat in the room, and listened to everything she was saying. And this bum-ass coach, I'm not going to say this person's name. I've written an article mentioning this person's name. If you know who I'm talking about, you already know. I'm not going to mention their name again. I'm not here to bash them. But this bum-ass coach who was running the event came and talked to me for now this is an event. This is a group event, so it's about 100 people there. I didn't pay for any one-on-one time with this woman, so I wasn't expecting that. I knew exactly what I was getting into when I got to it. But anyway, near the end of the event on the last day, she went around basically person by person to every table, and she talked with people about, okay, what are you going to do next? So you did an action plan coming out of this event, which is a good thing. Make sure everybody has an action plan. They have something tangible to take with them from your event that they paid for. Great idea. But the execution of the idea was terrible. So she comes table by table. She talks to each person for a little bit. Some people already knew what they were doing. Some people are already full-fledged into their thing. Maybe they were just fans of this coach, so that's why they came to the event. Some people had no idea. I was one of the people who didn't really. I had somewhat of an idea, but not really, right? So I had sat through our whole event, 3 days, didn't really have any new insights. She was teaching some things that I already knew. Again, not knocking her for it. I mean, again, the event wasn't the event for Dre. It was her event, and it was designed a certain way, and she taught what she taught. Again, we can complain about it, not gonna change anything. So at the end of the event, she finally comes to my table. She was clearly dead tired from having given out so much energy over 3 days. She didn't have much energy to really talk to me. She talked to me for about 5 minutes. And let me tell you something crazy that happened in this conversation. The first thing was, she said to me, Dre, what is it that you want to do? You used to play basketball. I told her that. She said, all right, what do you want to do next? I said, I'm getting out of basketball. What do you want to do next? This is what I said to her. I said, I'm going to do something with public speaking, something where I get to use my voice, speak out loud, whether that's on stages, whether it's, I've already been doing these videos, something. I didn't have a podcast yet at this point. All right. Now, you listen to this show. Okay. Now think about all the times you've heard me talk, whether that's on my social media story, whether you've seen a TED Talk of mine, a YouTube video, this podcast right here, this masterclass right here. Maybe you talked to me one-on-one before. Think about all the times you've heard me talk while I tell you what she said to me. When I told her I was going to do something that involved public speaking. This woman looked me dead in my fucking face. And she said, you haven't done any speaking all weekend. And she said it in such a way as if to be like, it was like a put down. She was like saying to me, well, you haven't spoken all weekend. Like basically what she was saying was when she would while she's doing her event, what she would have is people would ask questions or she would pose a question and people would answer it and things like that. Now there's 100 people in the room. So I didn't really offer to answer any questions because I didn't have any expertise to offer. I was like the greenest person in the room. All these other people, they were already into their industries or in their businesses. Some of them were new, trying to figure things out like me. And most of them didn't say anything either. There's 100 people in the room. Everybody's not gonna get a chance to speak. So I was really just listening all week. I was listening, taking notes, observing, just taking in everything. I had not offered any answers to anybody's questions because it wasn't my place to answer questions. I'm not the host of the event. I'm a fucking attendee. So I hadn't said anything all weekend is what she was saying. She looked at me in my face and said, you haven't said anything all weekend, as if to say, because Dre, you haven't answered any questions all weekend, you are unqualified to do anything that involves public speaking. Can you fucking believe that that's what she told me? This is a true fucking story. This really happened. And I'm not even gonna say this woman's name, but if you live in Miami and you've spoken to me, you know who I'm talking about. But anyway, we know she didn't know what the hell she was talking about. Let's just put it like that. Let's put a bow on that story by saying that. Because I've been through that experience, again, ladies and gentlemen, that won't happen if you're dealing with me. Okay, you will never have that happen. Somebody tell you something that's like the exact fucking opposite. But anyway, let's continue our point here. Point number 4. This bum ass coach, like I said, she pigeonholed me as someone who shouldn't be doing any public speaking. She said this is her conclusion. All right, this is her expert advice. Mind you, I paid to go to her event. Here's the expert advice that she left me with before she moved on to the next person that she's going by one. She said, all right, you used to play professional basketball. Why don't you, reach out to colleges and you could talk to college basketball players about playing basketball. This is, ladies and gentlemen, I am not fucking lying to you. This is the advice that I was given by an expert on branding. An expert on building a brand and putting yourself out there she told me in an indirect way I wasn't qualified to public speak and that I should focus on talking to colleges about playing basketball. That's the advice that she gave me. How y'all feel about that? I'll let you think about it. Well, I tell you that it shows that not every expert's actually an expert. Now, I paid for her event. This is the suggestion that she gave me. And again, ladies and gentlemen, because I've been through experiences like that, you won't go through that experience dealing with me. All right. What puts someone in position to make sure that they actually help people is that they've been in positions where someone was supposed to help and they failed. And that's why I'm telling you this story. But I understood, the marketing thing wasn't going to be for me because I'm not a marketing nerd. I'm still not one. And it was only after, let me tell you what happened. It was that same year, several months later, I met a different person who became a mentor of mine. who I hadn't even paid anything when I first met this person. They became a mentor of mine, and they saw me give a TED Talk. It was a TED Talk that I did at TEDx Coconut Grove 2016. The title is Dear Dre, How to Be Confident When You're Not. And she saw that TED Talk, 15-minute TED Talk, and she sent me a text message. And she said, Dre, I don't know how I didn't see it, but I know what you should be talking about. You need to be talking about mental toughness. This is what you should be talking about. It's so clear. I don't know how I missed it, but that's what you should be talking about. And God damn it, she was right. And she went on to explain to me, businesses love the subject of mental toughness. And you have the background credibility coming from sports. Not everybody can say they play professional sports. It gives you credibility to do it. Now, while I get, and that's how I landed on, that was the genesis of me creating this whole work on your game philosophy and putting it together and packaging it up and making it into this framework. Now, work on your game, the actual phrase, I was saying that back in 2009, but creating the whole framework, the framework did not exist until about 2016, about around the time we started this show. And it was actually after the show had begun. If you listen to any early episodes of the show, you notice the intro was not the same. I wasn't saying what I'm saying now when the show began. So it took time to formulate this framework. And again, I'm telling you that not to impress you, but to impress upon you, because I've been through the work of this, because I've been through the failures of so-called experts giving me some terrible fucking advice. We're gonna make sure that doesn't happen to you if you're working with me. Now, if you work with somebody else, I can't vouch for them, but I can vouch for myself. But anyway, now while I get that this whole thing sounds like, I told you the whole story in 10 minutes, it sounds like some easy, perfect outcome story. It absolutely was not. I had to first even have an idea in the first place to even get on the TED stage and to even give that talk that somebody saw and came up with that idea. The TED organizers might have rejected my idea, said, nah, we got 200 applicants out of the 15 that we're going to pick. No, we don't like Dre. Then once I got on the stage, I got through that part, I had to deliver something good that would open somebody's eyes to what I could offer. Just because I got on the stage to give a speech doesn't mean that speech was going to give anyone insight and say, yo, you should be talking about this. I had to actually deliver a good speech. These are all elements that I had to come up with. I had to be able to sell myself. I did a master class, and I want y'all to understand everything that I talk about here on this show, I have done a master class on how to actually do it. So you want to give a TEDx presentation. Masterclass number 415, how to get chosen to give a TED Talk. Has any of you ever thought about giving a TED Talk? Somebody told you should, or you just think of it as intriguing? I'll tell you how to do it. Again, masterclass number 415. Just go to dreallday.com/ and put the number of the episode 415. It'll take you right to it. So first of all, I had to get myself on the stage. Then I had to deliver something good. Then I had to develop this material and make sense of it. In other words, I had to make it sing. I had to make it feel right for me to even say it. Just because you can write it down or somebody else can say it, does it feel right when it comes out of your mouth? Then I had to go back. And as I said earlier, actually, I didn't have to, but you can. Go back and listen to some earlier episodes of this show. The way I introduced the show, I was focusing on some different things. So I had to take the time to figure these things out. And again, I'm telling you that not to impress you, but to impress upon you, because I've gone through this work, because I've gone through this process, because I've taken this time. Now I can help people like yourself with doing this exact thing. So all that being said, again, y'all know Work on Your Game University. Let's recap today's class, which is how to reinvent yourself. This is something that I did, and going from athlete to brand builder to content creator to business owner. And of course, it requires skills, it requires time, it requires work. The underlying principles is what we discussed here today. Number one, see more for yourself than your current space or situation. Definition of reinvent is to change something so much that it appears to be entirely new. You cannot change direction and take on a new identity if you don't believe that you can change direction and take on a new identity. You have to believe you can be something other than what you've been to this point, which leads to point number two, have the ability to tune out the noise. Not only the noise from other people, but the noise from yourself of people, including you, telling yourself that because you created so much success in your current space, it would make no sense for you to change and go into a different space. Just stay where you are. It's working already. Why would you change? Why don't you just stay exactly where you are? That's what most people do in life, and that's why most people will give you that advice, because they don't know any different. Point number three, identify the ancillary skills and ancillary uses for those skills. Definition of ancillary is providing necessary support to the primary activities or operations of an organization, institution, industry, or system. Looking at where you are now, ask yourself the following question: what skills and experiences do I have that can contribute in other areas of the world? For me, I was playing sports. I needed mental tools. They were the ancillary skills to playing basketball. Now, the mental tools, their ancillary skills are the fact that I play basketball because it gives me credibility and gives me entree to get people to listen to me. And then I can talk about the thing that I want to talk about. Point number 4, try new things. Before I landed on this mental game stuff, my first idea was I was going to talk about video marketing. Nope, didn't work. Then I went to an expert event. She told me I should go talk to colleges about playing basketball. Nope, that definitely didn't work. Then I had to go give a TED talk. And this was years, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going through doing things as I'm going through this process. Somebody else saw my TED talk and said, you should be talking about mindset. You should be talking about the mental game. That worked. Even after they told me that, I still didn't come up with the complete formula until sometime after that. And the formula now is what you hear every day when I introduce this show, Work on Your Game. All of this is part of the process of reinvention. So anybody's looking to reinvent themselves, you need to be in Work on Your Game University so that we can talk and I can help you make sure you do this smoothly and you don't get advice like I got from that bum ass coach. All that being said, work on your game. Dre, all